If you depend on computers and software, VIA Graphics is the right choice for you. When you use video training, you learn faster, retain more, and perform better at your computer. And best of all, less time at your computer means more time for you and the things that are really important. This videotape is designed to help you learn your software quickly and efficiently. Follow these 3 easy steps to get the most from this tape. First, watch the entire video all the way through. Second, watch the tape again, this time in 2 to 10-minute sections. Be sure to take your time to stop and practice the exercises or concepts on this video. To help you with this, we've inserted pauses into the tape. When you see this screen and hear this music, this is a suggested spot for you to stop or pause the tape. We recommend that you practice your computer skills at the pause points. Finally, rewind and refer back to the tape. You can do this as often as you need to. The video is divided into chapters so you can easily find the areas where you need to review. You may continue the process until you master the concepts. Most VIA Graphics training tapes also include a learning disc. You may use the sample data files on this disc to build your confidence by practicing on your own computer what you've learned from the video. The disc files are designed to work with software applications and will not run by themselves. VIA Graphics offers the most comprehensive collection of computer video training tapes available, from beginning to advanced levels. Please let us know how these videos work for you. Your comments are welcome and do make a difference. Let video training make the difference for you. Thank you for choosing a VIA Graphics training video. Now, more than ever, keeping up with the world means keeping up with computer technology and software. VIA Graphics, the leader in video training services, is proud to present this video tutorial.
Hello and welcome to this video tutorial learning Windows 98 Advanced. I'm David Cooper along with Paula Kennedy.
Windows 98 is a powerful operating system that has made huge improvements over Windows 3.1 and Windows 95. So what are you getting with Windows 98? An operating system that's more powerful and faster than its predecessors.
Windows 98 multitasks willingly. It provides easy access to adding new hardware and supports 32-bit applications, yet it will still run most of the older programs without objection.
Whether you're a beginner using Windows 98 as your first operating system or an experienced Windows 95 user, the variety of shortcut tools, menus, and accessibility options in Windows 98 provides a more powerful, user-friendly operating system.
In this video, we'll learn about the desktop and how to modify it. We'll talk about the menus and modifying them.
We'll look at the many faces of folders, customize a folder, discuss file types and association of files. Then we'll use some of the numerous options for system maintenance.
We'll also discuss the control panel and the display properties. Then we'll discuss the Internet applet, the keyboard applet, and the mouse applet.
Finally, we'll look into the Windows 98 advanced features like scripting hosts, support for multiple video cards, and advanced Dr. Watson utility.
We've made a typical installation of Windows 98. Since this is the Windows 98 environment, we assume you are familiar with the fundamentals of Windows 98. However, if you need to review, please refer to the VIA Graphics tutorial, Learning Windows 98 Introduction.
We have provided a learning disk with sample files that will be referred to throughout this tutorial and can only be used within the application. When we have finished this tutorial, simply delete the VIA Graphics Learn folder from the hard drive. If you would like to try the following exercises with us, we'll install the learning files on the hard drive using the following commands. Place the learning disk in the proper drive. Ours is A. Click on the Start button and select Run from the menu. In the command line, enter /VIA-learn.exe and press Enter. Then choose OK and click Unzip. Click OK, then choose Close. Right-click the Start button, choose Explore, and scroll to see the ViaGraphics Learning folder now appears on the C drive. Close the Explorer and we are returned to the Windows 98 desktop. We have provided test questions and answers with this tutorial. To view the information, place the ViaGraphics Learning Disk in the floppy drive. Right-click on the Start button and select Explore. In the Exploring window, select the floppy drive icon, then double-click the Q&A folder to open it. These files may be printed by right-clicking one, then choosing the Print command.
When we first start Windows 98, we see a very familiar look, the Windows desktop theme. The desktop hasn't changed much since Windows 95, or has it?
With Windows 98, we'll introduce a whole new active desktop that allows us to view the larger world of networks, intranets, and the Internet.
Regardless of which type of desktop we use, Windows 98 contains some timely revisions to the two most widely used desktop tools, the taskbar and the Start menu.
The main goal of Windows 98 is to incorporate Internet awareness to Windows 95 without requiring large amounts of user retraining.
To accomplish this, certain parts of the user interface from Windows 95 have been integrated with the Internet Explorer 4 browser to become web-based.
When we first start Windows 98, the Welcome to Windows 98 dialog box appears. This dialog box allows us access to register Windows 98, take a discovery tour of Windows 98, and some of the maintenance tools in Windows 98. Let's remove the default settings for showing this dialog box each time that we start Windows 98. We'll click the Show This Screen each time Windows 98 starts checkbox to deselect it. Then close the dialog box and we are returned to the desktop. Now the next time we start Windows 98, we'll begin directly on the desktop. One of the user interface components that has become web-based is the desktop. Let's change the desktop view from the classic view to the web-based desktop. First, we position the pointer in a blank area on the desktop, right-click, select Active Desktop, then in the flyout, choose View as a web page. The Internet Explorer channel bar appears. The Active Desktop brings our favorite Internet web page to the desktop background. Since our Windows 98 desktop is now active, the page is, shall we say, live.
We can scroll the page, click on web links, view all the animation, listen to the sound, and do anything else that we normally would do on a web page from Internet Explorer.
With the desktop now active, let's add a web page to our background. We right-click in a blank area of the desktop, select Active Desktop, then Customize My Desktop, and the Display Properties dialog box appears. Now let's add an active web page. We'll select New, and the New Active Desktop item dialog box appears. We'll select Yes to save and close the Display Properties dialog box, then connect to the Microsoft Desktop Gallery. The Microsoft Gallery is a website that allows us to download web pages directly from Microsoft that we can place into our active desktop. Internet Explorer appears as we are connecting to the Microsoft IE 4.0 Gallery. Now the Microsoft Active Desktop Gallery appears. We select the Cool Utilities button, and in the Utilities menu, we choose J-Track Satellite Tracking. The J-Track Satellite Tracking web page allows us to track a few of the over 7,000 satellites in orbit. We can see a preview and a brief description of the active channel appears on the right side of the web page. We'll choose the Add to Active Desktop button, so the downloading process for adding this page to our active desktop will begin. Then we'll select Yes at the security alert, stating we want to add this item to our active desktop, and the Add Item to Active Desktop dialog box appears. This is the review dialog box listing the commands we are about to carry out. We select OK, and our subscription is downloaded into our active desktop. This subscription allows us to stay in touch with the current website information, and we are able to schedule downloads of new information from the website automatically. Let's close the Microsoft Active Desktop Gallery web page and return to the Windows 98 desktop. We can see that the JTrack satellite tracking web page has been added to our active desktop. Let's reposition the web page for better viewing. We move the pointer to the page, and when the title bar appears, we'll drag the page to the center of the desktop and release the mouse. Now let's quickly resize the page so we are able to see the channel bar. We position the pointer in the lower right corner of the page, and when it changes into a two-way directional arrow, we drag up and to the left. Simply release the mouse when the page is the appropriate size. Reposition if necessary. If we view the page long enough, it will change, hence the name Active. We can also add website addresses, HTML documents, and pictures to our active desktop manually.
This allows us to customize our active desktop even more without having to go to the Microsoft Active Gallery.
Now let's add a website manually to the active desktop. We right-click the desktop and from the shortcut menu, select Active Desktop. Then Customize My Desktop. The Display Properties dialog box appears. In the Display Properties dialog box, we'll choose New. And this time, instead of choosing Yes at the new Active Desktop Item dialog box, we'll select No, and the new Active Desktop Item wizard appears. When adding a web page to the active desktop manually, it is a good idea to write down the URL before starting. The new Active Desktop Item Wizard walks us through the process for adding a URL to the active desktop. Using the wizard, we can either enter an address or browse for it. Let's enter our URL address for the web page we want to add. With the cursor blinking in the location text box, we'll type http://www.viagraphics.com and choose OK. Then at the Add Item to Active Desktop review, we choose OK to add the item to the desktop. In the Display Properties dialog box, we have 3 active web pages displayed. To finish adding the web page to our desktop, we'll choose Apply, then OK to close the Display Properties dialog box. This returns us to the Windows 98 desktop. We can now see that we have both web pages displayed actively on our desktop. Let's suppose we want to change back to the classic Windows view. We simply right-click in a blank area of the desktop and select Active Desktop from the shortcut menu. We deselect View as Web Page. This returns the desktop to the classic Windows view. Let's quickly change back to the web page view. We right-click, select Active Desktop, and choose View as Web Page. Notice our channel bar and the 2 active pages are displayed. And again, we're in the active desktop view. With or without the desktop icons? That is the question. Even though we set our desktop to active, the icons are still displayed. To make our desktop even more web savvy, wouldn't it be nice if we could hide these icons? Well, we can now. Let's hide the desktop icons to fully view our desktop as an active desktop. We'll right-click on the desktop, then select Active Desktop from the shortcut menu, and in the flyout, we'll choose Customize My Desktop. And once again, the Desktop Properties dialog box appears. We'll select the Effects tab, where we have numerous options for changing our desktop icons. We can change the icons, increase their size, and the other options. Since we're going to hide the desktop icons, we'll select Hide Icons when the desktop is viewed as a web page. Now to apply these changes, we select the Apply button. To return to the desktop, we'll select OK. Notice our desktop icons have disappeared. Remember that we set the icons to be hidden when the desktop is in the web page viewing mode. Remember, Windows 95 introduced the taskbar with its Start button. The taskbar's mission was to make switching between multiple applications in Windows 95 as simple as changing television channels.
Switching between the active applications is just a matter of selecting the desired applications button.
Or we can even customize the taskbar. We can create multiple toolbars for the taskbar or drag it to any perimeter position on the desktop screen. Then the taskbar will suit our specific needs. Even though our desktop icons are hidden temporarily, we can still access them. When we change to the active desktop view, the desktop icons can be moved to the taskbar and are just as accessible as if they were still on the desktop. With the desktop icons currently removed, let's display them on the taskbar so we can access them at any time. We right-click the taskbar, then select Toolbars from the shortcut menu. Then choose Desktop. The desktop icons are now displayed on the desktop toolbar. We can scroll through the icons and select one by simply clicking either the left or right arrows on the toolbar. Let's scroll to the left to view the other desktop icons. We click the left pointing arrow, and with each click, another desktop icon is displayed. First, let's discuss the taskbar. To the far left is the Start button. Next is the Quick Launch toolbar. It provides shortcuts to several of the often used features like the desktop, the web browser, Outlook Express, and the Channels Guide. Next is the Custom Toolbar area, which is currently empty, and we can see the desktop toolbar. It contains all the desktop icons, and to the far right is the Windows taskbar. Now let's reposition the taskbar. We position the pointer on a blank area of the taskbar and drag it to the left perimeter of the screen. Simply release the mouse and the taskbar has been moved. We can see the taskbar appears differently on this side of the screen than it did on the bottom.
When considering customizing the Windows taskbar, any of the toolbars, or even creating a toolbar, there are some things we must consider.
We must first decide on which files, folders, applications, and URLs we use most frequently. Then determine the best method to access each one. First, let's add an application to the Quick Launch toolbar. Adding an item to the Quick Launch toolbar is simply a matter of dragging and dropping the item to the toolbar. Since we do a lot of painting, we'll place the MS Paint in the Quick Launch toolbar. We'll right-click the Start button and select Explore. In the Exploring list box, we'll select Programs, and we can see the contents of the Programs folder are now displayed. We'll double-click the Accessories folder, choose MS Paint, then drag it to the Quick Launch toolbar. When the black indicator line is displayed, release the mouse. We've just placed a new shortcut to the Quick Launch toolbar. You may be asking why we just placed this shortcut to the Quick Launch toolbar. Remember, this is the only toolbar displayed by default. So now we have a shortcut to Paint placed here that is easily accessible. Let's close the Explorer and we are returned to the desktop. Next, we'll create a new toolbar that contains some other frequently used applications. We right-click the taskbar. From the shortcut menu that appears, we select Toolbars, then choose New Toolbar. The New Toolbar dialog box appears. Next, we need to select the folder we want to create a toolbar for. We'll select the Control Panel folder, then choose OK. Notice we have created a new toolbar on the taskbar that is named Control Panel. Next, we'll create an Address toolbar. An Address toolbar contains the same address line as the Internet Explorer. The web addresses we have visited appear in a drop-down list box. Let's right-click the taskbar, then from the shortcut menu select Toolbars, then Address. We can see that the Address toolbar was added to the taskbar. To view the web address that has been visited, just select the drop-down arrow. Ours is empty because we haven't visited any websites since activating this toolbar. Let's press Escape to close the drop-down list box.
Shortcuts are an extremely powerful tool for increasing our efficiency, and they work in Windows 98 much the same way they worked in Windows 95.
These shortcuts are extremely useful in a networked environment. We can create a shortcut for almost any object in Windows 98, then we can place it anywhere on the desktop.
Or we can embed a shortcut into an application. For example, we can embed a shortcut to a URL into an email message, which is more efficient than embedding a file into the email message.
Then the icon that is displayed for a shortcut has a jump arrow displayed in the lower left corner. This jump arrow actually tells us that when we select this icon, the shortcut will jump to the selected object. Let's create a shortcut and add it to our desktop toolbar. First, we right-click the Start menu and select Explore. The Exploring Start menu appears. From the Explorer menu, we have 3 options for creating a shortcut. We'll examine 2 of these methods. First, let's scroll up the folders list, then right-click on 3.5 floppy drive. A shortcut menu appears from which we select Create Shortcut. Windows 98 now displays the shortcut prompt informing us that a shortcut cannot be created here, and asks if we want to place it on the desktop. We'll select Yes to have Windows 98 place the shortcut to the 3.5 floppy drive A on our desktop taskbar. Now let's create another shortcut from a different folder and place it onto our desktop taskbar. We scroll down the folder list, select Programs, and the contents of the program folder are listed. We'll select Accessories, and to create the shortcut, we select the File menu, choose Create Shortcut, and the shortcut for Accessories is placed as the last icon in the contents box. Now we'll place the shortcut onto the desktop. We select the shortcut file, then drag the icon up the folder's list box, and when we reach the desktop, simply release the mouse. We've just placed another shortcut onto the desktop. Let's close the Explorer and view the 2 shortcuts we've created. Let's scroll down on the desktop toolbar. We can see that the shortcut to 3.5 floppy A and the shortcut to Accessories has been placed here. Next, let's see if the shortcut to Accessories really works. We click the shortcut icon and the Accessories window appears. Let's close the dialog box and we are returned to the Windows 98 desktop.
Again, when customizing the Start menu, we need to consider some important items. We want to add some of the most frequently used items to the Start menu or even the Programs menu.
Remember the Paint shortcut we added to the Quick Launch toolbar? Now let's place it in the Start menu. We simply place the pointer on the Paint shortcut, drag the icon to the Start button, and when the pointer displays the shortcut icon, release the mouse. We click the Start button and see the shortcut for Paint. Next, we'll explore another method for adding applications to the Start menu. Choose Settings, and in the Shortcut menu, we'll select Taskbar and Start menu. Now the Taskbar Properties dialog box appears. We'll select the Start menu Programs tab and click the Add button. In the Create Shortcut dialog box, we'll select the Browse button to find the exact location of the folder. The Browse dialog box appears and we can select an application from the Programs menu. We'll double-click the Program Files folder to display its contents, then double-click Accessories. Now with the Accessories folder contents displayed, we choose MS Paint, then press Enter. This returns us to the Create Shortcut dialog box with the proper command line entered. To add MS Paint to our Start menu, we press Enter. In the Select Program folder dialog box, choose Start menu, then press Enter. And with the proper name of the shortcut displayed in the Select Title for the Program dialog box, we'll choose Finish. This takes us back and we are returned to the Taskbar Properties dialog box. We'll press Escape to close the dialog box, then select the Start button to view the shortcut we created for MS Paint. We can see that MS Paint is now displayed in the Start menu. To close the Start menu, we'll press Escape. The Send To menu is another shortcut in Windows that can be very useful if managed properly. The Send To folder is located in the Windows folder. To access it, we right-click the Start button and choose Explore. In the Exploring menu, we can see the Send To folder. We'll click the Send To folder to display its contents. Notice we can use the Send To folder to send an item to the 3.5 floppy, the desktop as shortcut, mail recipient, or the My Documents folder. Let's add our printer to the Send To folder. This will allow us quicker access to printing files from disks. First, we'll scroll down the All Folders list and select the Printers folder. Now, to place our printer into the Send To folder, we simply select our printer and drag it to the Send To folder, and select Yes at the shortcut dialog box. Next, let's view the contents of the Send To folder. We select it and see that we now have a shortcut to our printer. Let's close the Explorer menu and we are returned to the Windows 98 desktop. Let's restore the desktop icons. We right-click in the desktop, select Active Desktop, then Customize My Desktop, and the Display Properties dialog box appears. We'll select the Effects tab, then deselect the Hide icons when the desktop is viewed as a web page checkbox. Next, choose Apply, then OK, and we are returned to the desktop with the icons displayed. Next, let's remove the desktop icons from the taskbar. We right-click on a blank area of the taskbar in the Shortcut menu, choose Toolbars, and select Desktop. We can now see that the desktop icons are removed from the taskbar.
You may pause the tape now to practice on your computer.
Let's review what we covered in this chapter. We learned how to hide the Welcome to Windows 98 screen.
We also discussed the Active Desktop and added an Active Desktop page URL manually.
We added our desktop icons to a toolbar on the taskbar and created new toolbars.
Finally, we customized the Start menu and the Send To menu.
Windows 98 now gives us more control over the folders in the My Computer and Windows Explorer.
Using the new Folder Options dialog box, we can specify how folders will be displayed. For example, we can display the folders in the classic Windows view, in the new Windows 98 web style, or a combination of the two.
We can also specify advanced settings for our network drive, display view, and pop-up descriptions for folders or desktop items.
We can even display a background image for a folder, create an HTML document to view the folder, or display our folders as thumbnails. Let's customize some folder properties. We right-click the Start button and choose Explore. From the Explorer menu, select the View menu, then Folder Options. Now the Folder Options dialog box appears and we are able to customize our folder options. On the General tab, we have three options to choose from: the Web Style, which allows us single-click access to folder contents; the Classic Style, which uses the Windows Classic settings; and the Custom allows us to specify all the settings we want to use for our folders. Let's click the View tab and discuss its functions. The View tab allows us to customize how each folder and its contents will be displayed. For example, we can create a background on one folder, then apply it to all folders. Now let's click the File Types tab. The File Types tab allows us to create associations for opening files. Let's click the General tab and customize our folder display. We'll choose the Web Style Radio button, then apply to change the web style, and choose OK to return to the Exploring menu. And the contents of the folders are now underlined. This indicates we now can single-click to access an item, instead of double-clicking. Let's check the single-click option. We position the pointer on the Programs folder and click, and the Programs folder contents are now displayed. Windows 98 walks us through the process of creating a background for any folder. Let's set a background for the Programs folder. With the Program folder open, we open the View menu, then customize this folder. The Customize this folder dialog box appears, and we have three options for customizing folders. We can create or edit an HTML document, choose a background picture, or remove the customization. We'll select the Choose a Background Picture radio button, then click Next. The installed backgrounds are now displayed. If we scroll down the list, we can view a preview of each background to the left. But let's not use any of these. We want to use our own from the VIA Graphics Learning folder. So we'll select the Browse button, and the Open dialog box appears. We'll click the drop-down arrow for the Look In List box and select Drive C. With the folders displayed for Drive C, we'll double-click the VIA Graphics Learning folder to display its contents. We can see that none of the contents are displayed. If we look in the Files of Type List box, we can see the file type for bitmaps listed. We'll click the drop-down arrow. Notice we have three types of images available: bitmaps, JPEGs, or GIFs. We select JPEG. Now two backgrounds are listed. Let's double-click on one. The preview showing our background is now displayed. We are also able to change the text and background colors. Let's change the text color to complement the background. We click the Color checkbox, and the Colors palette is displayed. We'll choose blue, then click OK. Now with the background set the way we prefer, we'll click Next, and the Review dialog box appears. We select Finish, and the Windows 98 sets the folder's background.
The Explorer and My Computer browsing model in Windows 98 has also become web-based.
Windows 98 describes this as surfing because we are browsing the contents of either the Explorer menu or My Computer menu.
The standard buttons are familiar buttons of Internet Explorer, with two additional buttons added for the menus.
While focusing on the Exploring menu, we notice that the standard toolbar appears the same as in Internet Explorer and contains many of the same commands as in Windows 95. There are two exceptions. The back button is the same function as the up one level button in Windows 95. The Views button puts the Windows View commands on a single-click button. For example, if we select the Views button, we can change how folder contents are displayed. Notice the new addition in Windows 98, the address bar. The address bar is a much-needed addition because it lists the current location of the selected folder, which can be useful when we are searching for applications. We are currently in the Start Menu Programs folder. Let's click the back button on the standard toolbar to move the Start Menu folder. Look at the address bar. It displays C:\Windows\Start Menu. Let's click the Forward button. This takes us back to the Programs folder. Again, notice the address of the Programs folder is displayed in the address bar. Let's display the Explorer bars. We open the View menu and choose Explorer bar. The four Explorer bars are listed. They are Search, Favorites, History, and Channels. The Search Explorer bar connects to Microsoft.com for searching on the Internet, so we can search web pages for information. The Favorites Explorer bar displays the Favorites folder for Internet Explorer. The History Explorer bar displays two categories of the History folder. The Channels Explorer bar displays the MSN channels we've set in the Active Channels folder. Each of these categories displays web connections we've made, so we can reconnect to a site we've visited. Let's close Explorer and we are returned to the Windows 98 desktop.
You may pause the tape now to practice on your computer.
Let's review what we covered in this chapter. We discussed customizing folders and the Folders Options dialog box.
Then we changed our folders to the web style view and added a background to one of the folders.
We discussed the Explorer and My Computer toolbars and the new buttons. Finally, we discussed the new Explorer bars and viewed one of them.
Traditionally, system maintenance is one area most of us don't consider approaching.
But with Windows 98, we are able to run these maintenance tasks manually or without ever knowing they have run.
We are able to keep Windows 98 running at optimal performance using the installed system tools.
Let's view the current system information for our computer. We select the Start button, choose Programs, then Accessories, System Tools, then System Information. We can see that the current system information is displayed. Some of the current system's information is the Windows version, the amount of RAM, the free system resources, available drive space, and others. Let's use the System Information dialog box to run some system maintenance tasks. We'll click the Tools menu, choose System File Checker, and then the System File Checker dialog box appears. The System File Checker checks our system files, such as .dll, .com, .vxd, .drv, .ocx, .inf, and .hlp, to ensure that they are all correct and not corrupted. This utility also provides an easy mechanism for restoring the original versions of system files that have become corrupted or modified. With the Scan Files for Errors radio button selected, we'll click Start, and Windows now scans the system files for errors. When complete, the Finish dialog box appears. We select Details to view the System File Checker results. We can see that all the attributes the System File Checker checked resulted in no errors. Now that we've seen this, let's close the Results dialog box by clicking OK, then the Finish dialog box by clicking OK, and the System File Checker by clicking Close. We've just checked our system file for errors and didn't find any. If the System File Checker did identify a system file as having changed, it will allow us to choose from several courses of action to repair the damaged file. Refer to the ViaGraphics video tutorials PC Maintenance to learn more about repairing damaged system files.
ScanDisk is a drive utility program included in Windows 98. ScanDisk can check your hard disk for problems and repair them automatically.
ScanDisk performs a battery of tests on a hard disk, including looking for invalid file names, invalid file dates and times, bad sectors, and the compression structures.
As a result, ScanDisk can check the integrity of a disk system and thereby prevent possible catastrophic errors in the future.
Let's run the ScanDisk utility on our hard drive. We select the Tools menu, choose ScanDisk, and the ScanDisk dialog box appears. Notice we can either check our hard drive C or the floppy drive A for errors. We also have options for performing the test. The standard test checks for FAT problems plus others, while the thorough test runs the standard test plus checks the disk for bad sectors. A sector is a small storage area or magnetic medium which usually holds up to 512 bytes of data, and a bad sector is one that can no longer be used due to some error. This test can take a long time to perform depending on how large our drive is. Since we haven't been having major problems, we'll leave the standard radio button selected and choose Start. Notice ScanDisk performs the test, then displays the results. Again, we have no errors, so we'll select Close, then close again to exit the ScanDisk dialog box. If ScanDisk were to find errors, a prompt would appear asking how we would like ScanDisk to fix the errors. We can save it to a different drive for undue purposes, delete it, or ignore it. And if any bad sectors were detected, ScanDisk marks these sectors, and no data saved to the disk will ever be stored in these bad sectors again. Now let's close the Microsoft System Information dialog box, and we are returned to the Windows 98 desktop.
Windows 98 also installs with another utility called Disk Defragmenter or Disk Optimizer. The Disk Defragmenter is an essential tool for tuning our hard disk.
The disk defragmenter's job is to eliminate file fragmentation from our hard disk. File fragmentation is one of those oh-so-scary terms unless you really understand what it means.
Fragmentation is the way a file is stored on a hard disk. It is stored in scattered, non-contiguous bits. This is a performance drag for a hard disk, no matter the size, speed, or seek time of our hard disk. Because when Windows 98 tries to open a file, it must make numerous stops on the hard disk to collect the various pieces of the file. Files are stored in clusters, and each cluster in a sector. Each of these has a fixed size depending on the disk capacity. So each of these clusters sometimes cannot be placed beside each other because a cluster may already be used. Before starting defrag, there are some considerations we need to address. Defrag should be performed when programs are opening slowly, when we remove an application from the hard drive, or when we want to optimize the hard drive space. Remove any unneeded or unused files. These files will slow down the defrag process. Always perform scan disk before running defrag to ensure no files are corrupted. Now let's run the Disk Defragmenter utility on our hard drive. First, we select the Start button and choose Programs. In the Programs flyout, we'll select Accessories, then System Tools. In the System Tools flyout menu, we'll choose Disk Defragmenter, and the Select Drive dialog box appears. Now we are able to select the drive we want to defragment. Since we are working on our hard drive, make sure Drive C is selected, then click OK, and the defrag process begins. We can view the status bar for the defrag progress, indicating the % complete. The good thing about the defrag utility is we can still access other applications while defrag is running. When the Disk Defragmenter dialog box appears, asking if we want to quit the Disk Defragmenter, we'll select Yes. This returns us to the Windows 98 desktop.
Another of the Windows 98 installed disk utility programs is the Disk Cleanup Wizard. The Disk Cleanup Wizard offers a variety of ways to free disk space, including emptying the recycle bin, removing old temporary files, and emptying the Internet cache file.
The intent of the Disk Cleanup Wizard is to help even the novice user recover some wasted disk space. Disk Cleanup is best utilized if it's ran once a week, removing unnecessary files.
Let's run the Disk Cleanup utility. We select My Computer, then right-click the hard drive. In the shortcut menu, select Properties, and the C Drive Properties dialog box appears. We'll select Disk Cleanup, and it scans the hard drive to see which files we can clean and how much space we are able to free. Now the Disk Cleanup dialog box appears, and we are on the Disk Cleanup tab. Notice at the top of the tab page, Disk Cleanup tells us exactly how much disk space we can recover if we remove all the components Windows 98 has found. We'll leave the default settings selected for now and click the More Options tab. In the More Options tab, we have the options for removing Windows components that we don't use and uninstalling programs we also don't use. We can also convert the hard drive to FAT32 mode. Let's select the Settings tab and view the options. We can see the only option listed is to automatically run Disk Cleanup when the disk space runs low. This option is selected by default, and we'll leave it selected. Next, we'll return to the Disk Cleanup tab and remove the unneeded files. We'll leave the Temporary Internet Files checkbox selected to remove these files. For safety measures, we can view the files in any category before we remove them by clicking the View Files button. Let's view the files in the temporary Internet file. We click the View Files button, and the contents of the temporary Internet file is displayed. After confirming to ourselves that these files are unneeded, close the dialog box. We are returned to the Disk Cleanup dialog box. Now let's remove the selected files. We click OK, and the Disk Cleanup safety prompt appears. We'll select Yes, and the Disk Cleanup status bar appears, indicating the progress of removing the files. When the disk cleanup is complete, we are returned to the C drive Properties dialog box. Those files we selected are now deleted from our hard drive. We'll close the Properties dialog box and return to the My Computer applet.
The process of running some of the disk maintenance utilities can be a time-consuming task. Wouldn't it be nice if we could schedule these utilities to run automatically?
With Windows 98, we can. All we do is schedule a time when we aren't using our computer. The tasks run automatically. That is, if we leave our computer turned on during the scheduled time.
The Tune-Up Wizard is used to schedule several performance-improving tasks, thus increasing the speed of frequently used programs, deleting unnecessary files, and removing unneeded programs from the startup group.
In the My Computer applet window, we'll select the Scheduled Task folder to schedule our system maintenance tasks. Now the Add Scheduled Tasks folder appears, we select it, and the Scheduled Task Wizard appears. We'll select Next, and the Application to Run dialog box appears. Now we'll select the programs we want Windows 98 to run automatically. We'll scroll down the list box, select Disk Cleanup, and click Next. Now we'll specify when we want to run this task. We'll select the Weekly Radio button, choose Next, and now we'll specify the time and day we want to run the task. We'll leave the time in the default and select the Monday checkbox, then choose Next. We have one more option to use before applying this task. We select the Open the Advanced Properties dialog box for this task when I click Finish checkbox. Then choose Finish, and Disk Cleanup dialog box appears. We can see the scheduled task and the command line on the Task tab. Select the Schedule tab and we can change the schedule to run the task. We click the Settings tab, and these are the advanced options for the performing task. Let's remove the task when it is finished. We select the Delete the Scheduled Task when Finished checkbox. We press Enter to return to the Scheduled Task dialog box. Now, next Monday at the scheduled time, the Disk Cleanup task will run, then be deleted. To add another scheduled task, we would proceed through the same steps, but selecting a different task and any other option we want to change, like the date or time. But we are finished scheduling tasks, so let's close the Scheduled Task dialog box to return to the desktop.
You may pause the tape now.
Let's review what we covered in this chapter. We discussed the Windows 98 System Maintenance tool, and we viewed our system properties, then ran the System File Checker.
We used the Scan disk to check our disk for errors, and discussed the Disk Defragmenter utility.
We used the Disk Cleanup utility and scheduled one of the System Maintenance tools to run weekly.
Even though we've done some customization to Windows 98, the major component of the customization process is the control panel.
The control panel could be referred to as Customization Central. It has been beefed up even more than the Windows 95 control panel to give us greater customization abilities. Let's access the control panel. We select the Start button, choose Settings, then select Control Panel. The Add New Hardware icon installs hardware devices and their drivers. We select it and the Add New Hardware wizard appears. This is the first step in adding any new hardware to our computer. We'll choose Cancel, and we are returned to the control panel. Refer to the PC maintenance video for installing new hardware. Next, we'll discuss the Add Remove Programs applet. It installs or removes applications created for Windows 98. Or we can run the Windows 98 setup to add or remove Windows 98 components. And we can even create a startup disk. Let's click the Add Remove Programs icon, and the Add Remove Programs Properties dialog box appears, and we are on the Install Uninstall tab.
Here we are able to install new programs or remove programs already installed. Try to avoid buying software without an install. Windows Uninstall should only be used when an application doesn't include the uninstall program. Let's click the Windows Setup tab. Now we can install other Windows 98 components not installed by the typical setup. Notice some of the components don't have check marks, which means none of the components are installed. Some have check marks with a gray background, which means some of the multiple components are installed. And the components with check marks only are completely installed. Let's install a new component from Windows 98. We'll install some of the accessories. We highlight Accessories, then choose Details. Now all the components on the Accessories shortcut are displayed. Remember that any component with a check mark is already installed, and if we remove the check mark, Windows will uninstall it. Let's install Games. We click the Games checkbox, and a description of the components of Games is displayed. To install this component, we choose OK, then Apply, and Windows scans the hard drive, install the components, then updates the shortcut, and we are returned to the Add Remove Programs Properties dialog box. Before getting too deep into changing your system properties, you should make a startup disk. If you don't have a startup, let's create one now. We select the Startup Disk tab, then insert a blank disk into your floppy drive and click Create Disk. Windows prepares the startup files. We'll select OK at the Insert Disk dialog box, and Windows 98 creates a startup disk. We'll press Enter, and we are returned to the Windows Control Panel. Now remove the disk from the drive, and be sure to label the disk Windows 98 Startup. We've just created one of the most important disks for our system. Now, if we ever have any problem starting Windows 98, we can use this disk. Next, we'll change some of the display properties. We select the display icon, and the Display Properties dialog box appears, and we have 7 different tabs to set the properties for our display. The Background tab sets the background for the screen. Let's scroll down the list and select the wallpaper. Notice a preview is displayed for the background. Next, we'll apply a screensaver. A screensaver is just as it sounds, a screensaver. It displays a moving pattern, so burn-in cannot occur when the computer sets idle for a long period of time. We select the Screensaver tab, and currently there are no screensavers active. We click the drop-down arrow in the Screensaver list box and choose the 3D flower box, and a preview appears. Now let's set a password for our screensaver. We select the Password Protected checkbox then choose Change. Now we type in our password and retype the same password. To apply the password, we select OK twice, and now our screensaver has a password. What this means to us is when the screensaver becomes active, you have to enter your password to get back to the operating system. Next, we'll select the Appearance tab. This tab allows us to change the color scheme for our desktop. We'll select the drop-down arrow and view the different color schemes available. There are 33 different color schemes for us to use. Let's select the Spruce scheme to see the change to the desktop color scheme in the preview window. Now let's select the drop-down arrow for Item. This field allows us to customize the color scheme even more by changing the color for individual components. Let's change the color of the menu. We select it from the list, then click the drop-down arrow for color and select Red. Notice the menu bar in the preview window has changed to red. We are also able to change the size, font type, font size, color, and add text formatting to selected components. Let's increase the size of the menu bar. With it still selected, we click the up spinner buttons, stopping at 25. We can see that the menu bar has increased in size. Let's view the options for the Effects tab. We select it and see that we can change the desktop icons and apply visual effects to these icons. Let's change a desktop icon. With the My Computer icon selected, choose Change Icon, and in the Change Icon dialog box, select Browse. Now the Change Icon look-in dialog box appears. First, we'll click the drop-down arrow for the Files of Type field and select Icons. Now we'll click the drop-down arrow for the Look-in list box, select C, then double-click Windows. We scroll to the right, double-click the WinUPD icon, and we are returned to the Change Icon dialog box. We select OK, and the desktop icon for My Computer has been changed. We can change every desk icon using the same steps. Let's restore the default icon. We simply click the default icon button, and the default icon for My Computer has been restored. Next, we'll discuss the Settings tab. We select it and notice the options we can change. The Settings tab allows us to change the options for our monitor, video card, colors displayed, and the screen area. The screen area controls the screen resolution. Moving the slider to the left gives a lower resolution, while moving it to the right gives us a higher resolution. Let's move the slider to the right and see that in the preview window, our scheme becomes smaller. We'll click the drop-down arrow for the Colors palette. The Colors palette drop-down list contains 5 color palettes. By default, Windows set this at True Color, but by selecting fewer colors, we can speed up our display. Unfortunately, complex graphics will not be displayed properly. We'll leave the default settings at 256 colors and select the Apply button. Now all the changes we've made will be installed. We select OK to resize the desktop, and to keep these settings, we would select Yes. But let's restore the desktop back to the original size, so we select No. Notice the desktop was returned to the default, but with the color scheme applied. Let's quickly restore the Windows standard desktop color scheme. We select the Appearance tab, click the drop-down arrow for Schemes, select Windows Standard, and click Apply. Now the color scheme is restored to the Windows Standard. Let's close the Display Properties dialog box, and we are returned to the Control Panel.
Even though we have other peripherals to make many everyday Windows 98 tasks easier, we still cannot discard the trusty keyboard.
In fact, when you learn the keyboard shortcuts, you'll find yourself reaching for the mouse less and less.
Let's select the keyboard icon and change some of the settings. The repeat delay controls the delay before the second letter appears. The repeat rate controls the rate at which the subsequent letters will appear. Let's change the repeat rate first. We'll move the slider all the way to the left. Now to test these settings, we click in the Test Area text box, press and hold a key. Notice the difference in the repeat rate. More experienced users would probably prefer a short delay and a fast repeat rate. The Cursor Blink Rate slider controls the rate of the cursor blinking. The Language tab allows us to change the keyboard layout to support multiple languages. Let's close the Keyboard Properties dialog box by pressing Escape. The default settings are returned, and we are returned to the Control Panel.
Much of Windows 98 was made with the mouse in mind, just as its predecessor Windows 95. To help with the handling of this pesky little peripheral, we can use the Mouse Properties dialog box.
We select the mouse icon and the Mouse Properties dialog box appears. We can see the first option is to change the mouse from right-handed to left-handed operation. This simply changes the operations of the buttons. Then we can see the double-click speed. This tells us how fast we have to double-click an icon to access the application. Let's adjust the double-click speed. We move the slider to the left, then move to the test area and double-click. Notice it is a lot easier to open the Jack-in-the-Box with a slower double click. Now let's choose the Pointers tab. The Pointers tab allows us to change the pointer icons. The easiest way to accomplish this is to select one of the installed Windows 98 pointer schemes. We'll select the drop-down arrow for the pointer schemes and select Animated Hourglasses. We can see in the preview window that some of the pointer icons have changed. Now let's select the Motion tab. The pointer speed slider controls how fast the pointer moves around the screen. If your pointer flies around the screen, we can slow it down by moving the slider towards the slower speed. And if we have complete control and want to increase the speed of a pointer around the screen, we move the slider towards fast. The pointer trails, if activated, allows us to find the mouse easier. Microsoft created this option for people with laptops that had trouble finding their mouse on the screen. Let's select the Show Pointer Trails and move the mouse. We can see the mouse now has a trail. This option can be helpful if you have a problem finding your mouse or annoying if you do a lot of mouse moving. Let's deselect the Mouse Pointer Trails checkbox, choose Apply to accept these changes, then OK, and we are returned to the control panel. Let's close the control panel and we are back to the Windows 98 desktop.
Let's review what we covered in this chapter. We discussed the control panel, then used the Add New Hardware dialog box to add a modem.
Next, we added new Windows 98 components and created a startup disk through the Add Remove Programs dialog box. Then we discussed the Display Properties dialog box and changed some of the settings.
Then we changed the repeat and delay rate for the keyboard. Next, we changed some of the mouse properties and applied a pointer scheme.
Although Windows 98 is based on the same foundation as Windows 95, except with many advancements made to the base functionality, it has become more accessible for everyone, even those with disabilities.
Windows 98 is now more robust in running MS-DOS-based, Win16-based, and Win32-based applications.
And if that isn't enough, Windows 98 can convert a hard drive from FAT16 to FAT32, and we can run some advanced diagnostic utilities for better diagnosis.
Then while we are supposed to be doing other things, we can watch our favorite television programs on multiple monitors.
Windows 98 enhances a user's system for accessibility in the following ways: making the user interface elements scalable, compensate for difficulties using the keyboard, emulate the mouse with the keyboard, support alternative input devices that emulate the keyboard and mouse, provide visual cues to let users know when an application is making sounds, advise applications when the user has a vision impairment, advise applications when the user needs additional keyboard support because the user had difficulty using a mouse, advise applications when the user wants visual captions displayed for speech or other sounds, optimize keyboard layouts for users who cannot use both hands to type, include audible prompts during setup for users with vision impairments, optimize color schemes for users with visual impairments. All these accessibility features described are adjusted through the Accessibility Options icon in the control panel.
Windows 98 supports direct script execution from the user interface of the command line. A script is simply a series of commands that can be executed automatically.
This support is provided via the Windows scripting host. The WSH is a low-memory scripting host that is ideal for non-interactive scripting needs, thus allowing us to save time by automating many user interface actions, such as creating a shortcut and connecting to a server.
The WSH is extremely flexible, with built-in support for Microsoft Visual Basic Scripts, JavaScript, and a language-independent architecture that will allow other software companies to build Microsoft ActiveX scripting engines for languages such as Perl, TCL, Rex, and Python.
Let's view a sample Windows script. We select Start, choose Programs, then Accessories, and Notepad. Now with Notepad opened, we select the File menu, choose Open, and the Open dialog box appears. We click the drop-down arrow for Look-In, select Drive C, then double-click the ViaGraphics Learning folder. Now we can change the files of type to All Files, then double-click Shortcut. This is a Visual Basic script that will create a shortcut to the Notepad and place it on our desktop. Let's close the Notepad, and to run the script, we select Start, choose Run, and in the Run command line, type C:\ViaGraphics Learning folder /shortcut.vbs and press Enter. A Windows message box appears telling us we created a shortcut to Notepad. We click OK, and we can see a shortcut to Notepad on our desktop. This script was written using the Notepad and saved as .vbs or Visual Basic file extension.
Windows 98 comes installed with an enhanced version of the Dr. Watson utility.
So who is Dr. Watson and what exactly does he do? Dr. Watson collects detailed information about the state of our computer at the time of an application fault.
Then Dr. Watson intercepts the software faults, identifies the software that faulted, and offers a detailed description of the cause.
When enabled, the tool automatically logs all this information to the disk and folder, and then can display it on a screen. This information can be used to assist product support personnel in determining the cause of the fault.
Let's start the Dr. Watson utility and collect information about our system. We select Start, choose Run. In the Run command line, type Dr. Watson and press Enter. We right-click on the Dr. Watson icon, then click Dr. Watson, and Dr. Watson gathers information about the system. And if any errors are detected, the Diagnosis dialog box appears. Now we can enter the information that is needed to describe what happened in the fault. We'll type ATI Accelerator Altered Windows System Files. Now let's log the file. We select the File menu, choose Save As, and type Error 1 and press Enter. And we are returned to the Diagnosis dialog box. Now if we ever need to contact product support, we have a detailed description of the problem. Let's close the Diagnosis dialog box and we are returned to the desktop.
Aside from the ongoing support of the conventional display features found in Windows 95, Windows 98 now supports a new and important display feature.
It is called Multiple Display. The ability to run multiple applications on the PC has made screen space a priceless provision in our system.
It would be nice to have a large 35-inch monitor to view the open applications, but we know that's a costly solution. So we simply connect two monitors using two video cards.
Multiple display uses the concept of a primary display and a secondary display. There are some hardware considerations for the two types of video cards.
The primary display can be any PCI VGA video card that has a mini driver using a linear frame buffer and a packed non-planar format. Then the video card for the secondary display must be one of the following: an S3-VIRGE series, S3-Trio 64V+, S3 Aurora, Cirrus 5436, 5446, or 7548, ET6000, ATI Mach 64, RAID 1 or 2, or the imagined I-128-2. Let's open the control panel and change some settings for the second monitor. We select the My Computer icon, choose Control Panel, then Display Properties, and the Display Properties dialog box appears. We select the Settings tab. Let's move the dialog box to the second monitor. We drag the title bar to the right, then when we reach the center of the second monitor, release the mouse, and we've moved the Display Properties dialog box. We can move any item from one monitor to the other in the same fashion. Next, we'll change the orientation of the monitors. We'll drag the number 2 monitor under number 1 and select Apply. Now move the mouse left back to monitor 1. We can't because we changed the virtual desktop. To move back to monitor 1, we move the mouse up. Now wasn't that fun? Let's change the monitor back to the virtual left and right orientation. Then choose Apply. Close the Display Properties dialog box and the control panel. Next, we'll open 2 different applications and demonstrate the ease of working with 2 monitors. First, we'll open Word and place it on the number 2 monitor. We select the Start menu, choose Programs, then Microsoft Word. Now move the Word document to monitor 2. Now we have one application open that we can be working on. Let's open a different application and place it on monitor 1. We select the Start button, choose Programs, then Accessories, and finally Paint. Look, we can be writing a letter in Word while playing in Paint. Working with multiple applications just became a lot easier thanks to Windows 98 multiple monitor support. Let's close Paint, then close Word. We are returned to the desktop for both monitors. We can attach up to 9 monitors in a multiple display configuration. Let's review what we covered in this chapter. We discussed the accessibility tools for Windows 98 users.
Then we discussed the direct scripting host, viewed a sample script, then ran the sample script.
We discussed the Dr. Watson utility and ran the utility to take a snapshot of our system. Finally, we ran different applications on 2 monitors. To delete the learning files from the hard drive, first we right-click the Start button and open the Explorer. Next, highlight the ViaGraphics Learning folder. Press and hold the Shift key as we drag the folder to the recycle bin. Subsequently, release the mouse, then the Shift key, select Yes at the Confirm folder Delete, and our files are deleted. Finally, we'll close Explorer and we are returned to the Windows 98 desktop.
That concludes this video tutorial, Learning Microsoft Windows 98 Advanced.
We've covered a lot of information in this tutorial. If you feel the need to review this tutorial, simply rewind the tape and watch that section again until you are comfortable with the material.
Please feel free to contact us about our other video tutorials.
Our worldwide website address is www.viagraphics.com. Send your questions or comments on this tutorial via email to admin@viagraphics.com. For more information about ViaGraphics training products, email info@viagraphics.com, subject information. For sales questions or to place an order, email sales@viagraphics.com.
We at VIA Graphics would like to thank you for choosing our company for your computer training needs.
Remember, if you plan to learn Windows 98 or any other computer software, there is no better way than through video training with VIA Graphics.